Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth, and I'm your host, the Game Master. With me today is my wife,
Hello.
and today we're going to play a game featuring Thor, who we actually haven't seen for a while in the game. Um, Thor used to be played by a friend of mine named Jason Seidner, and the reason I bring that up is, first of all, he moved to, I want to say, South Carolina. Um,
Yeah.
his big thing was he loved Battlestar Galactica, the old 1970s Battlestar Galactica, and he was building scratch built model ships from that show, and he built a Galactica model that was like 6 feet long and took it to, I want to say, the Georgia Comic Con. And he actually got approached by some Hollywood guys about quitting his day job to, like, actually go do special effects for a living. So I really don't hear from him anymore, but the reason I bring all that up was he was a huge fan of Battlestar Galactica, and their whole deal was they had characters with names like Apollo and Athena and stuff like that. So I think it was sort of, based on Chariots of the Gods. For those who are familiar with that, that was like a film in 1970 based on a book. But the concept is that a lot of the stuff we have in mythology is actually based on these beings from other planets and stuff like that. Stargate would be a good example of that too, right? So
Mhm.
when they made the Thor movie in 2011, that was actually the route they were originally going to go. And we had kind of heard that at the time, so that was because of the Battlestar Galactica connection, right? Seidner really was pushing for planet Asgard. Instead of it being like in another dimension or something, he wanted it to be in the same dimension with us in just another planet. And he argued that it kind of should have always been that way because for those who know, when Jack Kirby went over to DC and he did the New Gods, according to Kirby, when people would ask him who were the old gods, he said it was Thor and Odin and those characters back when he worked at Marvel, right? So he was connecting those two. And of course, for people familiar with those characters at DC, like Darkseid is a great example. They're on other planets, you know. So that was Seidner's whole argument, and so that's how we did it in the game. The other thing I wanted to mention is some background information you might need to go know before we get into it is normally I would do a character's first appearance, but I read the first few appearances of Thor and they just don't work that great for game mechanics, right? For a tabletop role playing game. So instead, we're skipping forward to the first time Thor met Radioactive Man. So that brings us to the prologue. Simply put, in the fall of 1962, China invaded India. And so they sent this medical mission there led by Dr. Donald Blake, aka Thor. Um, Thor ends up fighting um, like a bunch of tanks and stuff, Chinese tanks. And so then China, as a reaction, creates the radioactive man. And he's sort of their answer to Thor. So that's it. That's the setup. So as the game begins, honey, what would you like your character to be doing?
I'd really like to finishing up in surgery, uh suturing up the wound and incision I made and getting ready to uh tidy up and clock out for the night.
Okay. Um, so you're doing that stuff and you go to a different part of the, I mean, like you'll get some pats on the back and stuff like that. And they're
Because I'm awesome.
saying, yes, because you're awesome. Saying what a good doctor you are. And so you go to a different room to like wash your hands and so on and so forth. And there will be some nurses talking about Thor and it gets your attention. And one of the nurses, by the way, is Sif. in disguise. She has a human guise. Um, but this isn't her. This is other nurses. And at any rate, you will sort of overhear them talking about how Radioactive Man has come to America, and he is actually at Madison Square Garden, sort of yelling and stuff, and saying, "I challenge Thor," blah 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 blah. You get the idea.
Yeah.
He's calling you out, and they're like, "Where's Thor? Why hasn't he answered yet?" That kind of thing. So what do you want to do?
I will leave the room and grumble under my breath. It's because I was busy saving lives. Uh,
Okay.
and head to an elevator that gets me as close to the roof as possible so that I can tap my staff and transform into Thor and fly ridiculously fast to Madison Square Garden.
Okay, so when you do that, because that means lightning strikes inside of the hospital,
Yes.
right? So it is crazy loud. Think about when lightning hits the front yard or something and shakes the
Yeah.
house and makes people jump and stuff it'd be like that, right? And so your boss, who all the doctors have to answer to, is basically, yeah, what in the blazes was that? And so Sif, who I mentioned, has an Earth disguise or whatever as a Monday nurse. She will sort of take the guy by the arm and say, it must be one of those new sonic booms I've heard so much about recently. Just kind of establishing that this is a period piece, and you get it.
Yeah.
So you fly through buildings and stuff, at breakneck speed, without hitting anything, and you do a superhero landing in Madison Square Garden. And this guy is basically kind of like China's answer to the Hulk.
Yeah.
He's he's green, but unlike the Hulk, he actually glows. He is
Yeah.
putting off small amounts of radiation. But according to the Marvel superheroes role-playing game, it is quote unquote feeble, so it's nothing you got to worry about.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
And we rolled initiative before the game started, and your initiative's way higher than his, so you go first.
so I will stand up from my awesome superhero landing and bellow, thy puny mortal doth challenge the mighty Thor. And I will laugh heartily as if this is just another Monday. Uh, Fly over to him and smack him with the hammer.
Okay. Roll to hit. Tell me what you get.
I got 17.
Okay. That is a really good roll, actually. You get 2 column shifts. Normally the hammer does, let's see, 12 APs of damage. And then he's got a body of 5, but then he has 12 APs of force field.
Mm,
So, you actually do need a 15 or better to hurt him. It's not hard to hit him. It's hard
yeah.
to hurt him. It's hard to get through that force field. Do 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 do. 17. So you do 3 points of damage, which mind you, he only has a body of 5, right?
Okay.
It's for him, it's all about that force field. So you hit and it hurts.
Good.
Um, okay. So flying over was an automatic action. Smacking him one was a dice action. You got another auto. Well, no, you
Oh, I
laughed at him.
talked. Yeah, I
That's
talked.
right. You were talking. So that's your other auto. Okay. So it's his turn. And he is going to, let me look at his character sheet here. He's going to use his 11 AP energy blast. So he also, because you guys are very even, he also needs 2 column shifts to hurt you. I roll a 6 and a 5, which is an 11, which is no column shifts. So he does hit you, but he does not hurt you.
That does tickle. Uh, okay, I'm
So you're
gonna
s-
hit him
you,
again.
you okay.
Ugh, I only got a 10.
Okay. You have one more auto if you care to use it.
Eh, no.
Okay. Well, he's going to use another energy blast on you.
Alrighty.
What is your dexterity again? Is it like a
My dex is a 6.
okay, I was thinking it was a 4. Okay, it's a 6. I roll a 5 and a 4, which is a 9. So that's even worse than last time. So he does hit you. He blasts you at pretty much point blank range with this glowing green energy of his, but it
Mm-hmm.
is not actually hurting you any. Your
Fair
skin
enough.
armor, your skin armor works against radiation, by the way. So
Mhm.
it's one of the many things it counters.
I'm not
Um, you know what? He's not going to talk or anything. He's going to take another attack. He can get 2
okay.
dice actions if he's not talking. He does actually. He rolls a 17 this time,
Oh,
which is the 2 column shifts he needs. So you will also take 3 points of damage.
noted. Okay.
So now it's your turn.
All right. Well, he's getting serious, so I'm gonna get serious. Uh, I'm going to use 2 dice actions. I'm gonna hit him the first time, hopefully. Double fours and an 8.
So 8
So
and 8,
yeah,
so 16 total.
yeah.
That's the 2 column shifts you needed. You actually knock him out.
Woohoo!
Um, okay. So what do you want to do with him now?
Well, the guy's
Which I
oozing
guess would be
radiation.
epilogue stuff technically, but
Yeah. So I would have to find some sort of lead containment unit to put him in.
okay.
Um, have I been around long enough to have made connections to where this is possible?
You know what? Actually, no.
All right.
Um, because this is very I can't remember now which one of Thor's appearances this is, but this is really early on in your time in the modern era, the quote unquote modern era as Dr. Blake, you know. So I don't think you like there are no Avengers yet. You have yet to meet the Fantastic Four.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You will have heard of them.
can I make contact with them?
Sure, you want to throw this guy over your shoulder and go fly to
Sure.
their
I've
headquarters? Okay,
I've heard of the genius Reed Richards. Surely he can come up with something quickly.
sure. They have a flat area on top of the building where you can land the Fantastic Car. So if it's okay with you, we can say you land there.
Sure.
And
Try not
so
to
I'm
break anything.
how do you want to get their attention?
Uh, is there a door up here?
Yes,
I will gently knock on the door with my hammer.
with the hammer.
Yes,
Give me a
gently.
roll.
Okay. I rolled a 9.
It's a below average roll. And I'm going to throw this out there too, right? So the story in the comics is that you're a jerk, that the whole reason you're on
Yeah.
Earth is to learn how to not be a jerk. And this is early in your story, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you're not so gentle. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe it's more like you just go over and, smack their door off its hinges and are like, hey, you there, puny humans. Me. Do you want to go that route?
Yeah, sure.
All right, sure. So we'll say you go over there and smack the door, and it will. It'll just, there's nothing special about this door whatsoever, right? And this is Mjolnir. So it's just going to blow it off of its hinges like hardcore. Um, what do you say?
Thou dost have shoddy workmanship. And I will enter uh and say, Sir Richards, I've come for aid as I make my way down the stairs carrying this knocked out guy.
Okay. Um, well, I'm going to say Ben Grimm isn't here right now because he would fight you. I'm I'm going to say that Johnny Storm is not here right now because he's out partying and stuff like that,
Of course.
chasing girls and things. And Reed will be in his lab, and I will assume that Reed has a bevy of scientific instruments that can detect radiation and stuff like that's probably going to be the takeaway here, right? Is you're taking something radioactive
Yep.
into their home.
Yep.
So that will for sure get Reed's attention. And he will be how do we want to put this? I think Reed Richards would be kind of like not real into Thor because I think Reed kind of like dislikes like religion, and you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
So I feel like he would be not super welcoming. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna care. Um, I will say, I have heard that thou art heralded as one of this planet's most brilliant minds. Surely you can come up with a way to contain this feeble villain's radiation.
Uh okay. He will substitute an Omni gadget for um we'll say force field, I
Okay.
guess. Um he will have you carry this guy to the lab, and then he will also um sub another Omni gadget for, let's say, energy absorption,
Yeah.
works on radiation, and then he will sort of clean up the area from its radiation. And he will be very skeptical of you, like he thinks maybe you're like one of these mutants he's
Mm.
heard about, you know um and that you're just lying to people and telling people that you're Thor, and so he'll start to question you.
Before he can, once he has secured the villain, I will clap him on the back of the back and
He'll be
be
real
like,
rubbery.
yeah, like, ha, the stories are true then.
He will, when you smack him hard on the back, he'll be like wub wub wub.
Uh,
It's like those, what it would be like? Those slow motion videos of stuff like shooting a fat guy in the belly with a cannonball, and they show
oh,
like the ripples.
that's funny.
It would be like that. So what are you doing? You taking off?
Uh,
Are you just like, nah, screw this guy, he's just a human? Or are you like gonna stick around and answer his questions?
I I might entertain his questions since he is rendered aid in containing the bad guy.
All right, give me because you have a really high influence.
Yes.
Because like the DC hero system defines a quote unquote god as like influence of 20. So since the Marvel superhero system doesn't have influence in that system, we that's how we figured out what we thought you would be. So that means your charisma persuasion skill is like through the roof, like the
Yeah.
default thing you need. So why don't you give me a roll just to see uh, how things are going between you
I
and Reed
I
Richards.
rolled a 7.
Okay. Um, all right. So I guess like at some point we'll say you mentioned, planet Asgard or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that will totally change his tune. he's way more interested in you when science becomes a factor, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then he'll be more kind of starting to get excited, and he'll ask you if can I get a swab of your saliva? All sorts of stuff, right? Egon type stuff.
All right. I suppose.
All right. No, he'll just be doing whatever, uh he'll just be checking you over, or asking you all these questions like, do you have a nervous system, or do you, what's going on? And you look human, but you're not, because you're like super dense and things like that. And so he's just full of questions.
All right. Um, Gosh. I don't know how long I would be entertained enough to play along before I'm just like, yeah, I gotta go.
No, I totally agree. I don't know if you remember or not. There was an old made for TV movie in the 80s uh that was in the same continuity with the Lou Ferrigno
Yeah.
and Incredible Hulk TV show, where they brought in Thor. And I actually love that guy as Thor. I thought that guy nailed the character, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he was very much like, if you talk a lot about science, he'd be like boring, kind of give it an eye roll, and he just
Yeah.
doesn't give a crap. I'm in the minority because I actually didn't like the Chris Hemsworth Thor movies myself, partially because he is supposed to be a jerk, and like Natalie Portman's character kind of tames him by the end of the first movie, and I thought that should have taken way longer. In the comics, I got the impression that Thor was on Earth for years and years and years, and still wasn't where Odin wanted him to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely think that you're kind of too cool for school, so to speak. And when Richards is going on and on about whatever science stuff, you'd be like, ugh, enough.
Yeah. I've entertained your inquiries long enough, mortal. Uh, do whatever you wish with the villain. I must away, and I will leave.
All right, that's awesome. All right, you fly away. And just for gits and shiggles, I'll say that Ben Grimm will come home, and he's doing that thing he does. This the same thing the Ninja Turtles do, where it's like, yes, I'm a giant orange rock monster, but I'm wearing a trench coat.
Yeah, so you don't notice me.
So you don't know I'm a giant. So like he'll walk in and like put his hat on a coat rack by the door and hang his coat on it. He'll be like, "Hey, Stretcho, what did you do today?" And Reed Richards will be like, "Actually, Thor from the planet Asgard came," and blah 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 blah, And the thing will be like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh. I'm sorry I asked." Like, just, whatever. Go to the kitchen and
Poor
be like,
Reed.
"Nope, I'm not even. Nope, nope, and right out." All right. Well, that's all I got. Thank you for playing.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
Thank you to everybody listening for being here. I say it a lot, but it's because I really genuinely mean it. We live in a world where there are so many things you can do for entertainment, right? And
Hmm.
you guys are listening to me instead, and that means a lot to me. Thank you. We've got a great community here. It is all because of you guys. Thank you so much. Um, if you're willing to do me a favor in return, I would really appreciate it if if you could hit the like button. Make sure you're still subscribed. Ring the bell for notifications, and leave us a comment, because that really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. And all I really want on my end is to share the game with others, because I love this game. That's why I've been playing it for
And we
40
really love
years.
reading those comments too and responding to them.
Yes, yes, we get awesome comments all the time, and that is also to the credit of you, dear listeners. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you, everybody, for being here. From all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.